You walk out to the garden this morning with your coffee in hand, and the lettuce looks wrong. Not dead wrong, not yellow wrong, just off. The newer leaves at the center are curling a little. There is a faint shimmer when you brush your hand past the kale, like something tiny lifted off and resettled a heartbeat later. Below, on the backside of the leaf, where you never look until it is far too late, something is feeding in numbers you did not see coming. This is the moment most gardens lose a full row of greens. The damage is not dramatic yet. The holes are small, the whiteflies are not thick. But the season is here now, and it does not wait on you. Whiteflies and caterpillars do not politely arrive one at a time so you can keep up. They show up at the same moment, on the same plants, riding the same warm nights, and the same long evenings that you have been waiting for all spring. And if you do not have a clear plan for the next 7 days, the next 10 days, the next 3 weeks, this is the row that is going to disappoint you by harvest. You will eat less than you should. You will buy more than you planned. And you will wonder what the experienced growers down the road are doing that you are not. So let me show you what a smart gardener does instead. They do not panic. They do not dump a bottle of something on the leaves and hope for the best. They slow down long enough to actually see what is there, separate the two problems from each other, and then move in the right order. Whiteflies and caterpillars are not the same enemy. They feed in different places, they move at different speeds, they respond to different treatments, and they fail in different ways. When you treat them like one problem, you end up throwing precious time at both and solving neither. That is why so many beds drift from a little chewed to nothing left to eat inside a single week. People see pests, not the pests. They spray one thing, miss the other, and the season leaves them behind while they were busy being thorough. Let me walk you through it, the way I wish someone had walked me through it years ago. The summer I lost half a planting of collards to a cloud of whiteflies and a quiet population of cabbage loopers working the same leaves. It was a hard lesson. Here is the shortcut. First, calm down. The bed is not over. Most of your greens are stronger than they look. Arugula, kale, chard, mustard, leaf lettuce. These are tough, fast-growing crops, built to take some weather and keep pushing new leaves out the top. Caterpillars take bites. Whiteflies take sips. Neither one kills a healthy, mature plant overnight. What kills a plant is when the gardener gives up on it too soon, stops checking, lets the pest population build unchecked behind the leaves, and treats the symptoms instead of the cycle. Do not be that gardener. Stay in the fight. The greens are rooting for you, and they recover far faster than you would think if you give them half a chance. Now triage. Before you spray anything, before you cover anything, before you reach for any product at all, do 2 inspections. Do them today. Do them in the morning, before the sun gets hot, when the pests are slower and they are sitting still in the place they actually live. 2 inspections, in this order, because the actions that follow are different. Caterpillars are a chew pest. Whiteflies are a sap feeder. They require different tools. If you only address one, the other will quietly take the rest while your back is turned. Inspection 1 is for caterpillars. Turn the leaves over. Start at the oldest, lowest leaves and work your way up toward the new growth at the center. Look for holes that go all the way through the leaf. Look for green caterpillars pressed flat against the midrib, or tucked under a curl, or riding a stem like a little arched green inchworm. Look for a sprinkle of dark grit on the leaves below where the caterpillar is feeding. That grit is frass, which is caterpillar droppings, and it is the surest sign of a caterpillar working up above. Look on the undersides for pale yellow or orange egg clusters, sometimes laid singly, sometimes in tidy rows. Look along the stem where the leaf meets the main stalk. Look in the heart of the plant, where the new leaves are still furled tight, because that is where the smallest, hungriest caterpillars hide during the heat of the day. You will likely see 2 or 3 different kinds, depending on your region. Cabbage loopers arch their back as they move and feel almost translucent green. Imported cabbage worms are velvety green with a faint pale stripe. Diamondback moth larvae are smaller and wiggly when disturbed. The species matter less than the damage, which looks essentially the same. Ragged holes, sometimes skeletonized leaves where only the veins are left behind, and a slow, day-by-day disappearance of leaf area. By the time the damage is obvious on the upper surface, the caterpillar has usually been working there for days. Inspection 2 is for whiteflies. Stand close to the plant. Do not touch it yet. Watch the undersides of the leaves, especially the newer growth, toward the center, where the leaf is still soft and the sap is moving fastest. Whiteflies are tiny, about the size of a pinhead, and white. They like to gather in casual groups along the veins. If you tap or brush the leaf with a finger, they erupt in a small cloud, flutter an inch, and resettle. That is the sign. Also look for a faint stickiness on the leaf surface. That is honeydew, the sugary waste whiteflies leave behind as they feed. And look for a blackish, sooty film beginning to form on top of that stickiness. That is sooty mold, a fungus that grows on the honeydew. Where you see honeydew and sooty mold together, you have a real infestation, not a visitor. A quick note on why this matters. Whiteflies are not just a nuisance. They are sap feeders, and heavy feeding weakens the plant. Their honeydew gums up the leaf surface, cuts light, and feeds mold. And they carry viruses that can move through a bed of greens like a rumor through a small town. Once one plant has it, the rest catch it through feeding. That is why a small whitefly population today is a serious problem 2 weeks from now. They reproduce fast, and they do not politely leave on their own. A single female can lay dozens of eggs in a week, and the nymphs that hatch underneath the leaf are the ones actually doing the damage, while the flying adults you see are only part of the story. You do both inspections, in that order, and you write down what you actually see, not what you hope you see, not what you remember from last week. What is on the back of the leaf right now? The numbers you see today tell you what kind of week you are about to have, and what kind of week it will be if you do nothing. Now, the highest leverage moves. Order matters. Do these in roughly this sequence over the next 7 to 10 days, and you will turn the situation around. Move 1, and this is the one most people skip because it feels old-fashioned, is to take the caterpillars off by hand where you can. This is not glamorous. It is not modern. It is, however, the fastest way to reduce population pressure on a small bed, and the impact is immediate. A pair of gloves, a small container of soapy water, 10 minutes of patient turning and looking, and you can pull dozens of caterpillars off one plant. Drop them in the water. Do not toss them over the fence. They crawl back. They are patient that way. Get them off the plant entirely and end them. A few practical notes from years of doing this. Start with the most damaged plants. Caterpillars do not distribute evenly across a bed. They cluster on whatever is most tender, most shaded, most recently fed. If you have 10 kale plants and 3 of them are chewed to lace, those 3 are holding the bulk of the population. Work those first. Drop the population, and the feeding pressure on the rest of the bed drops with it. And look at the rescue opportunity, not just the casualty list. A plant with 20% of its leaf area gone is still a producer. A plant with 80% gone is probably not worth saving mid-season, when reseeding is faster than recovery. Be honest with yourself about which plants fight back and which ones are just feeding the bugs. A small bonus, while you are down there, hand-picking forces you to look closely at every plant, and that close look almost always catches early egg clusters you would otherwise miss. A quick swipe with a damp cloth removes eggs before they hatch, and prevents a whole second wave you would be fighting next week. Move 2. Bring in BT. Bacillus thuringiensis, sold as BT, sold under brand names like Thuricide, Depel, and others. BT is a naturally occurring soil bacterium that has been used by growers for decades. When a caterpillar eats a leaf treated with BT, the bacterium produces a protein that disrupts the caterpillar's gut. It stops feeding and dies within a day or 2. It is specific to caterpillars. It does not hurt bees in any meaningful way. It does not hurt birds, pets, or you. It does have to be eaten to work, which is why coverage matters. Spray the undersides as well as the tops, and spray in the evening so the sun does not break it down before the caterpillars come out to feed at night. The mistake people make with BT is treating it like a contact poison. It is not. It is a stomach-active biological. You do not need to drown the caterpillar in it. You need the leaf it eats tonight to have BT on it. So a thorough evening spray, repeated every 5 to 7 days during peak caterpillar pressure, gets the job done. If you only spray once and stop, you hand the next generation a clean plate. Stay on it for 3 weeks and the population collapses. Mix it fresh. BT degrades in the bottle once you dilute it, so make only what you will use that evening. Store the concentrate in a cool, dark place. Use it within a season. Old BT is weak BT. And if you are opposed to even biological products, floating row cover is your tool instead. A lightweight row cover, draped over hoops or even laid directly on the plants and sealed at the edges with boards, bricks, or a thin line of soil, keeps the adult cabbage moths and loopers from laying eggs in the first place. Row cover works best on a freshly transplanted or newly seeded bed you are trying to protect from scratch. On an already infested bed, it can trap pests inside with the plant, which is the opposite of what you want, so use it in the right order. The general rule is this: row cover for prevention, BT for cure. One more thing about BT. It only works while it is on the leaf. Rain washes it off. Dew dilutes it. New growth is uncovered. So if you spray today and it rains tomorrow, you need to spray again. If 3 days of new leaves unfurl untreated, the caterpillars will eat those leaves clean while you wait. Plan around the weather, not around the calendar. Move 3. Knock the whiteflies back with water. Plain water. From a hose with a decent nozzle. Aimed at the undersides of the leaves. This is the underrated move of the entire season. Whiteflies are soft-bodied, slow to settle, and weak flyers. A forceful jet of water dislodges nymphs and adults alike, knocks many of them to the ground where they cannot return, breaks up the layering of sooty mold, and disrupts the population in a single pass. It does not kill them all, but it drops the count fast, and it costs you nothing but 10 minutes and a steady hand. Set a routine. Morning, every other day, hit the undersides of every infested leaf. Do it before the sun is high enough to encourage mildew on wet foliage, especially after the canopy starts to fill in. The cycle of water, wait, then check, is the whitefly version of hand-picking caterpillars. It is not elegant, but it is free. It works, and it never harms a beneficial insect. The gentle bugs you want in your garden, the lacewings, the lady beetles, the parasitic wasps, are not knocked off by a water spray the way whiteflies are, because they hold on tighter and they find new footing quickly. The pests do not move 4. If water alone is not enough, layer in insecticidal soap or a light neem oil treatment as a contact control. Both kill soft-bodied insects, whiteflies yes, caterpillars no, which is exactly why you did the caterpillar work first. The trick with either product is coverage and timing. Spray the undersides of the leaves, where the whiteflies actually live, until the surface is wet but not dripping. Spray in the late afternoon or evening, when pollinators are not active, and the product will not evaporate in 2 minutes under the sun. Reapply every 5 to 7 days. Do not expect one spray to end it. Expect 3 to 4 sprays spaced over 3 weeks to break the cycle. Read the label. This is not a slogan. It is a real instruction. Some insecticidal soaps are approved for use on leafy greens up to the day of harvest. Some are not. Some neem products are stronger than others. Some have additives that burn tender lettuce in heat. The label tells you which. Follow it. And if you are growing in a small bed and the label seems to assume a 50-acre farm, scale down accordingly. The proportion matters, the volume does not. Sticky traps have their place too. Yellow sticky cards, hung just above the canopy, catch a steady stream of adult whiteflies and give you a real read on the population in the air. They are a monitoring tool, more than a killing tool, but in a small bed they pull their weight. Change them when they fill up. They are not pretty, but they are honest, and the whiteflies do not seem to mind the color. Move 5. Invite the allies you actually want in the bed. This is the long move, the one that pays you back next month and the month after. Lacewings, lady beetles, hoverflies, parasitic mini-wasps. These are the insects that quietly hunt whitefly nymphs and caterpillar eggs for you while you sleep. They are already in your garden or nearby. The question is whether your afternoon is hospitable to them. A small flowering strip at the edge of the bed, alyssum, dill that has bolted, calendula, a few yarrow plants, gives the adults nectar to feed on between kills. Skip the broad-spectrum sprays entirely, because they kill these helpers along with the pests. Skip the clean-tilled bare border too, because that is where the beneficials sleep. A slightly messy edge is the most powerful pest control you did not know you were growing. Trap cropping is another quiet move that works in midsummer. A row of radishes or nasturtiums planted a few feet away from your greens will often draw cabbage moths and aphids to it first, simply because it is what they prefer. You sacrifice a small stand of something cheap to protect the stand you actually eat. The trap crop is not a cure, it is a decoy. Check it, hand pick off of it, and let it take the pressure the greens would otherwise absorb. Now, a few moves smart gardeners do not make, even though they hear about them every season. They do not broadcast a general insecticide across the entire bed, because that kills the beneficial insects, the lacewings, the parasitic wasps, the tiny predators that quietly do half the work for you while you sleep. They do not plant more of the same crop right next to a struggling bed, because you are just feeding the feast. They do not skip inspection for 2 weeks, because the leaves look okay. Pests are not gone. They are under the leaf where you are not looking, and they do not give up on a bed that has a few chewed leaves. A kale plant with some holes is still better than the store. A lettuce row with sticky leaves you can wash is still dinner tonight. The decision point is not perfect or pull. It is worth feeding this week, or worth composting this week. Make that judgment honestly, plant by plant, row by row. Now save versus cull. Here is how to think about it without sentimentality. If a plant has more than half its leaf area intact, is still pushing new growth from the center, and recovers visibly after a week of triage, keep it. Even if it is chewed, even if it is sticky, it is a producer. The smart move is to nurse it through with a little fertilizer, a clean layer of mulch, and consistent inspections. The plant will repay you. If a plant is more whole than leaf, has stopped putting out new growth, is heavily coated in sooty mold you cannot wash off, and is hosting more whiteflies than the rest of the bed combined, pull it, bag it. Do not compost it unless your pile runs hot enough to actually kill eggs and pupae, which most home piles do not. Replant that square with a fresh transplant or a quick-growing seed like arugula, mustard, baby lettuce, or turnip greens. Mid-season replants are faster than trying to coax a finished plant back. Removing one finished plant pulls a huge chunk of the breeding population out of the bed with it, and breaks the cycle in one motion. That replaces inventory you would have otherwise lost at the grocery store, with harvest you produced yourself, on the same square foot, inside a few weeks. A lot of gardeners hesitate at this step. They feel bad pulling a plant. I understand that, but holding on to a finished plant feeding the next generation of whiteflies is not patience. It is generosity to the pests. The garden rewards decisive moves more than it rewards hope. There is one more consideration. Arugula, mustard, and the brassicas in general grow fast and tolerate heat far better than lettuce does in mid-season. If your lettuce is bolting and is also being chewed, pull it without guilt. Replace it with a quick mustard or arugula planting, and you are harvesting again in 30 to 40 days, instead of mourning a crop that was already winding down. Rotation is not defeat. Rotation is what experienced gardeners do without making it dramatic. Now the close. Here is exactly what to do this week. Today, do both inspections. Mark which plants are caterpillar hot and which are whitefly heavy. Hand-pick what you can off the most damaged plants. In the morning, with a container of soapy water at your side, note any egg clusters you see and wipe them off with a damp cloth while you are there. Tomorrow morning, hit the whitefly undersides with a hard spray of water. Get under those leaves where they cluster. Hit them again in 2 days, and again 2 days after that. This week, order or mix up your insecticidal soap or your neem product according to the label. Spray the whitefly undersides in the late afternoon, when pollinators are home and the sun is not breaking down the spray. Reapply in 5 to 7 days. 3 sprays over 3 weeks breaks the cycle. Tonight or tomorrow evening, spray BT on the caterpillar-damaged plants, focusing on the undersides and the new growth where the caterpillars prefer to feed. Repeat weekly through the worst of the pressure. This weekend, reseed any spot you pulled. Arugula, mustard, baby lettuce, turnip greens, anything that grows in 40 to 60 days and reaches harvest before the hard frost where you are. Throughout the week, walk the bed every morning with your coffee. Look under leaves. Notice what is changing. That daily inspection, even for 2 minutes, is the single habit that separates the gardeners who finish the season strong from the ones who limp to the first frost wondering what happened. That is the plan. None of it is fancy. None of it came from a bottle with a miracle label on the front. It came from looking, then acting in the right order, then acting again. Whiteflies and caterpillars on leafy greens are not a green time problem. They are a discipline problem. The gardeners who win are not the ones with the cleanest beds or the most expensive sprays. They are the ones who check the undersides of the leaves, who act the same week instead of waiting until next weekend, and who decide which plants are worth saving and which ones need to come out. That is the whole game. And if you do this for 2 seasons in a row, you will start to notice something quietly important. The next time the moths come in late spring, you will feel the pressure rise the same way you feel rain coming in. The next time the whitefly cloud lifts off a brassica plant, you will know within 10 seconds of the inspection whether you are fighting a quick skirmish or a long siege. That kind of judgment is what older gardeners used to call experience, and it is really just the habit of paying attention, kept year after year until it becomes instinct. Most people think pest control is about what you spray. Smart gardeners know it is about when you look. Now, one quick question, because I want to know how you are set up. When whiteflies and caterpillars show up in your beds, are you working with a row cover already in place, or are you fighting them open air? Because the answer changes what I would tell you about timing on the next video, where I am going to walk through the exact week to set out fall greens, so you can sidestep the worst of the second wave of cabbage moths, and whether row cover changes that timing or not. Drop your answer in the comments, and I will handle the rest in the next one.